Hello group, Jeff here. Today's video is going to be a little longer because we have a lot to cover, and I think it's important for those that are just getting into streaming or would like to stream, and those that have been streaming and want to get a better image. We'll start those videos with this one. So we're going to start with how to set your computer up for running OBS. And OBS currently is the #1 streaming software, and it's used by the most people in the world. It has it's open source. It has a great community, very similar to the Mellencamp group, and I like it. I've been using it for 4 years, and I use it to actually do my job. So I kind of have enough feel for what OBS likes, and we'll start to cover that in this video. For the second part of the video, I'm going to show you how to calculate what bitrate you want to use for your network, best practices. And this, I've been in the streaming business from day one. And back in the day, there wasn't a whole lot of information out there, so it was all trial and error. And I have the burn marks to prove that I was one of the first. Then we're going to get into how to calculate what bitrate you want to use when you stream with OBS based on what we did in the second part of the video. This becomes very important because there's 2 networks involved, potentially 3. There's your internal network that goes out to your ISP. In my case, it's Spectrum. And then there's in my case, there's a hub, a fiber hub that's in Buffalo that goes up into Toronto, which I think is where the servers are. So I'm passing through at least 3 or 4 different networks to get my stream up to see the liveskies.org servers. Could even be more, who knows. And then we'll cover what is a scene and what are sources. If you don't understand those 2 things in OBS, you'll never have a stream. You'll wonder what's going on. So let's start with, I'll go to this display capture. And we're going to start with the computer first. And the computer is a very important piece of the puzzle because it's the one creating the stream. And if you don't know what the computer likes, then you're bound to fail. So I will be talking about integrated graphics, which would be an Intel-based GPU, an NVIDIA-based GPU. So you can have a machine with just the Intel. You can have a machine with an Intel and an NVIDIA chip, or you can have a machine with an Intel and an AMD chip. Why is this important? Because we need to set up the computer to act correctly with OBS because of the demands that we're placing on the machine when we're streaming. So what we want to do is go to settings. There's 2 or 3 ways. You can type settings into here. You can click on the orb, Windows orb, and go to the gear icon, or you can go to the notification center and click on all settings. Then we want to go to system, and it opens up into display, which is where we want to be. We want to click on graphics settings, and you will see that I already have OBS listed, but we'll run through it anyways. OBS is a desktop app, so you want to make sure there's only two here, desktop app and Microsoft Store. And we're going to go browse to find OBS. So you go this PC, C drive, program files, OBS Studio, bin, 64-bit, and there's OBS. You want to click on it and add. I'm not going to because I already have it. You'll see this show up in the line here. You can click on it. You get two options, remove and options. We want options. And this is based on the machine that you have. There could be 2 or 3 options here. If you only have an Intel GPU, then you're going to see let Windows decide or power saving. We want power saving. If you have an AMD or an NVIDIA chip, we want power savings, Intel UHD graphics. You select that and save it. We're done with this. Next, we want to right-click on the desktop. If you have an Intel, you don't need to do anything. If you have an NVIDIA or an AMD, you want to right-click on the control panel for your particular GPU. Takes a moment to open. I'm an NVIDIA guy, so I'm really going to know more about the NVIDIA stuff. You want to click on Manage 3D Settings in the NVIDIA control panel and click on the Program Settings tab. You'll see that I already have OBS in the box. That's because I added it already. But you'll want to check and see if it's in your list. This list is not alphabetized. So I'm willing to bet at least a penny that everyone who's going to do this will not see OBS, so we're going to add it. Takes a moment. It's searching all your programs. I can guarantee it's not in this list. So we're going to go right to Browse. We're going to do the same thing. This PC, Windows, C drive, program files, OBS Studio, bin, 64-bit, and you're going to click on OBS 64bit.exe and then open it. I'm not going to do that because I already have it in my list. It should show up in the top, or it should show up in the box. If it doesn't, you'll have to browse to find it. When that's in the box, then we want to go to number 2, and you'll have 2 options. 3 options, I'm sorry. And for NVIDIA people, we want to put integrated graphics. Same for AMD if you have something similar to this control panel. We want to pick the integrated graphics and then apply it. Okay, we're done with this. So now we're going to cover, that covers the computer. There's one more thing we could do, and I'll just go over it real quick here. If OBS is showing a black desktop, that the chances are that you had either, and you had been broadcasting on the MSN network, you have been using a Flash-based streaming app. Flash is a beast. It does not release resources when the program closes. It always keeps them active because Flash thinks Flash is God's gift to the world, and it isn't. So what winds up happening is if you try to run other applications that need those services or resources, Flash won't release them. And it breaks that software that you're trying to run. In OBS Studio's case, we can kind of get around that if you're still having trouble after what we just did with those 2 steps prior, is you can go to the all programs list here and go down to OBS, right click on it, go to more, open this file location, and you'll see that it's already highlighted. We want to right click, go to properties, compatibility mode, and we want to run this program as an administrator. You want to click that and apply it. I don't need to do that because I've never run Flash. We'll say OK. What that does is it puts OBS into an administrative mode, and it will fight for those resources, especially for graphics resources. So you would want to do that as a last resort. So now we're going to get into part D. And we need to know what our network is capable of. And you want to do this after you have rebooted your routers, rebooted your hubs, rebooted your cable modem if that's what you have. Everything needs to be rebooted to run this test, especially the cable modem or whatever, for whatever service you have. And the reason is whether in my particular case I have Spectrum, they sometimes hold updates to the modem until they're rebooted. Or the cache in the modems gets so plugged up with junk that when you try to stream, the modem gets confused. So it's best to just start fresh, reboot everything, and then run the speed test. And you'll also want to reboot your stuff that's in the path from the machine that's streaming to your outside to the outside world. So that's going to be your machine, whatever switches are in the path, your router to the cable modem, or whatever modem you have for your service. All those need to be rebooted religiously before you stream if you want a reliable stream. So now we're going to test our network. And I'm using the Bing speed test. It's an easy one. You just type in speed test and it shows right up. We don't care about the upload speed, or I'm sorry, the download speed. And you'll see that the network is not, it's not a constant bit rate. That can be based on a number of factors. Your internal network, the number of people. In my case, there's a couple hundred homes in my area. How many people are using the network at one time? That can vary throughout the day. So my peaks and my lows are going to vary throughout the day. Like I can tell when kids come home from school because my bandwidth goes down to nothing. So our upload is 15, we'll call it 16 megabits per second. And I know that during busier times of the day, I can drop to a little under 15 megabits per second. So that's what I'm going to use. You always want to be a little under that, right on the number. But I'm just using 15 because it divides by 3. To calculate your max bit rates, you divide your upload speed by 3. And you're going to say, Jeff, but I have all this upload headroom now. I've been doing this for 20 years. Or not quite 20. And by taking a third of your upload speed, you're guaranteeing that your stream will never drop. And you don't want to be a little over, you want to be a little under. So a third of 15 is 5 megabits per second, which is 5,000 kilobits per second. So with that number, we can now proceed to the OBS. And I've duplicated some stuff here only because in OBS, if I start clicking on some of my scenes, it will show exactly what those scenes are. So I'm not really going to get into clicking on all of my stuff, except for the 2 that will work for this session. So we've already covered these 2. Now we're going to cover how to calculate what bit rate to use in OBS settings. So we'll go to this. The first thing you want to do is you want to create a profile in a scene collection with this same name. You don't want to use the untitled profile. Keep untitled around in case you ever have a problem with OBS and OBS is acting stupid. You can always go back to the untitled and start new. So I'm currently using a copy of my Live Skies broadcast for both the profile and the scene collection. And if you go up to the top, you'll see that my profile is the musing setup video and the scene is musing's setup video. And those are copies of my Live Skies broadcast profiles. And when you make a new scene and you make a new profile and you make a new scene collection profile, what will happen is down here you'll have scene, only one thing, scene, called scene, and you'll have nothing in your sources. And we'll cover that in a minute. Right now we're going to go to settings. And again, I'll repeat that Michael has already done a quick setup guide video that is very good. It's enough to get you up and running. What I'm going to cover are some of the reasons for picking specific bit rates and frame rates. We're getting into the nitty-gritty of streaming here. So in the general tab, we do not need to do anything, nada. You can look into that after you get more familiar with using OBS. In the Stream tab, we want to select Customs, and this is what Michael's covered. Custom, you want to log into the Live Sky site using your account and select the external encoders section, and the first line is the RTPM server string, and you want to copy that and put it in here. The second line is the server key. You want to copy that and put it in here. And then you want to, for RockSite, you need to have a username and password. We won't apply that just yet. For outputs, this will be in simple. So you want to click on it and click advanced. That will open up these 4 tabs. The first tab is streaming. We want one audio track only. So all the other radio buttons are off. In my case, I'm an NVIDIA guy, and I'm using the NVIDIA hardware encoder. There could be, if you're an Intel machine, you want to look for Intel QuickSync H.264. If you're an AMD guy or gal, you want the AMD VCE encoder. If you do not see any of those, then you want to select the X.264, and that will guarantee that you can create a stream by selecting that. But for people with the Intel, NVIDIA, and AMD, you want to use those versions here. We do not want to enforce streaming service encoder settings. The reason why is we're going to be way under what ROC's bit rates are. For video on ROC's site, it's 3,500 kilobits per second for the video and 96 kilobits per second for the audio. We're going to be under. I'm not going to rescale the output. We'll get into that in another video. For now, I'm using 1920 by 1080. My network can support that. For rate control, we want CBR, constant bit rate. If you want to look at the other ones, go ahead. But constant bit rate is the most consistent. For the bit rate, we want to calculate what bit rate to use. And knowing that my network can support up to 5,000 kilobits per second, is a good thing, because that gives me a lot of headroom for what I want to do, and I can experiment a little bit. We, in doing what we're going to be doing, are streaming a Mellencamp Sky screen. The only thing on that screen that moves is the cursor, if you have the cursor activated. That's it. Nothing else on the screen moves. Occasionally, when you slew your scope, the image will move, but we don't care about that. We aren't interested in watching the scope slew. We're interested in the target, and once the target is established, it does not move. The only thing on the screen that moves is the mouse. So knowing that, we can really knock the bit rate down to something that's manageable and sendable on networks. And in my particular case, I'm sending over Wi-Fi. So from my driveway to my repeater that's in the garage, it goes from the repeater through a power line adapter down to my router. So that's about 50, 180 is 360, so that's 410 feet. And I can stream a 1,536 kilobit video stream over Wi-Fi. And for those that have seen my two broadcasts, they look great. So how did I calculate this number? Well, back in the day, and I was one of the first guys to stream on the web, the software that was available liked and needed 128 kilobit chunks. So you used multiples of 128 to figure out your video bitrate and audio bitrate. So I want to be around 1,500 kilobits per second. So I already know that 128 times 12 will be 1,536. 1,536. So we enter that number in here. The rest we don't need to mess with. You can, we'll get into that in later videos. Now we want to click on the record tab, and I'm currently using OBS to record, so I have to speak what a lot of this stuff is, because they're ghosted out because I'm recording. So in the record tab, I'm using the standard type. My record path is in my D Sessions Live Skies record folder. So I have sessions. My sessions folder is off of the C drive on a D drive, an external drive, and It's a bigger drive. I don't want to plug up. You can plug up your C drive very fast with video files. So I keep the video stuff off of the C drive. OBS also likes to have its assets, the assets that you use to create your productions are something that OBS always needs to find. So somewhere you guys need to, or gals, need to create a folder, and within that folder you'll have like an image folder, a music folder, some images that you want to use, and then a record folder. And that's what I've done. I do not want to generate file name without spaces. I want an MP4. This is important. You want MP4 if you're going to record. Only one audio track. And I'm using the stream encoder. So if you were using the Intel QuickSync, the NVIDIA NVAC, and the AMD VCE encoders, you'll want to use the live stream encoder. And the reason for that is the stream is created once in hardware and it forks. When you hit the record button, one stream goes out to the world and up. This encoder is forking part of the stream to make the file. So it's instead of creating two different streams, one for the stream, one for the record, it's using the one and forking it. One's going out to the world and one is going to a file. That's all we need to do. If you do not have that and you're using the X268 encoder, then you would want to select the X264 encoder here. For audio, I'm at 48 kilobits, but you can stay at 44.1 stereo. You don't want your desktop audios on, and you need to talk, so you want your microphone on. That can be a USB mic. It can be a mini jack mic. Anything that allows you to speak and be heard by the who's ever watching your show. That's all we need to do here. For video, 96% of the world is on 1920 by 1080. So that's my canvas rate on this machine. That's my display resolution. For the output scale, I'm at 1920 by 1080. By cubic, 16 samples. In the frames per second, because I'm recording, my record is going to be different than my stream. The stream, you'll want 24p or 24 NTSC. 24 NTSC. And the reason for that is, again, we're just streaming. The only thing that's moving on our stream is the mouse. So we can get away with a lower frame rate. Probably could even go lower, but the HTML5 standard are all HD resolutions and frame rates. And if you start getting below that, kind of messes with the encoders and the streaming servers. So you want to kind of stay in standard formats. Hotkeys, I don't use any. I use a Stream Deck. We'll talk about that in a later show. But if you do use a hotkey, you got to remember that you're going to be Mellencamp Sky is going to be the top window. If you pick a hotkey, you want to make sure it's not the same hotkey in Mellencamp Sky, because if you start hitting the button, then you're the only one that's seeing that is Mellencamp Sky. So I don't use the hotkeys. The advanced, the only thing I changed was my color space. I'm a 701 or a 709 guy. After all those changes, you want to apply it. And I've already done that. We'll say okay. So that takes care of the settings side of OBS. Now we're going to get into the scene side. All right, so now we're going to cover part 4. And if you don't know what a scene is and a source in OBS, then you're really going to have a hard time streaming. And the understanding of these is fairly simple. We'll go back to our display capture. And when you created your new profiles, you will have you'll have a scene in scenes, and you'll have nothing in source. So I'm not really going to click on any of these because because I'm recording, that's going to change how or what's being shown. I'll explain it. A scene describes what you're viewing. So in this particular case, I have a desktop capture. And currently, my desktop is the OBS screen. It could be if I close OBS, you'll see that now I have my desktop. So knowing that the scene is describing what you want to show, you can have different scenes represent different parts of your show. So in my particular case, I have a black frame. I have broadcast bars, and that's just me. I've had to use bars for so many years, it's just an old habit. Then I have my intro to my my broadcast. Then I have my broadcast with no DSLR, which would be the webcam up in the top corner. And then I have the broadcast with a DSL up in the corner. DSLR, I should say. Then I have my outro, and then I have this and this. So those all hold a special function within my broadcast. But for you guys and gals, my suggestion is until you get used to OBS, you create 2 scenes. One scene you're going to call black. So you would click on the plus sign, and a window will open up. You enter black and say OK. That will put the word black in scene, but you'll have nothing in source. So you would you would click on the plus sign, like so, and you want to go to image or color source, and you would select that, and it's going to bring up a window to where you want to add a name. So what you want to do is you want to keep the color source, because OBS groups things by name. So if you have multiple color sources, they'll all be in the same group, and it makes finding things easier. So it would be, in my case, and I don't want to show it because it would switch me, but it's color source space underscore space black, or whatever color you're using. And then when you say OK to that, it will open up another window, and that's the color picker window. And you'll see where it says color, and then you can add a color. I can show you here, I believe. If you want to add the Mellencamp Sky window, that is done with a window capture. So you would have to have, the first thing you would do is open the program window that you would open OBS, then you open whatever program that you're going to want to display in OBS full frame, and then you would add it into OBS as a scene. So you would create like live, and then you would add a window capture, and that window capture is going to be the Mellencamp Sky window. So it's going to be window capture space underscore space or dash would be probably better, MCS, and that'll put that in the list here. So instead of display capture, it will be the Mellencamp Sky window, and that will what that'll do is now you have a window that's always going to broadcast only Mellencamp Sky, regardless of where Mellencamp Sky is on your desktop. It could be down below in your taskbar. You're not seeing it on your desktop, but it's always going to be streamed because it's open. Then you can add CG on top of that. And let me see, here we go. And what I mean by that is here's the Mellencamp Sky window. You'll see that when it opens, it isn't quite a 1920 by 1080 frame. But that's okay, because the way Rock's site is, you can have, there's black bars top and bottom, left and right, and if you're not filling that frame, these black bars blend in, so you'll never notice them. But I have some CG on top of my Mellencamp Sky window, and that's this. So what I've done is I've made up, so people know who, my channel name doesn't have my name in it. So people can figure out whose channel this is. I put my name, looking up channel, at the top in the Mellencamp Sky unused space. Then down here, I've added this CG right there. And there's my Jeff. And you'll see that I have other text that would describe different types of cameras and filters and whatever you want to put in there. So you only have to do this once, and then right before your broadcast, based on what your how your gear is set up, you would just turn on and off the right title, and you're ready to go. So when you're ready to stream, I would go into black. Black is the easiest to spool up. Remember, the network, when you start sending a lot of data, the network has to spool up for your stream. And that takes some time. That can take anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds for the network to spool up and then to even out. And once the network is evened out, then you'll get, as the load on the network smooths out, what we want to do is send that black frame out to Rock's Place. So you would click on your black frame and scene, click on streaming, start streaming, open up a browser so that you can see the channel hit, liveskies.org. As soon as you see that black frame, You can then click on your Mellencamp Sky in scene. And as soon as you do that, you are now broadcasting. So you don't wait to see it on the website because it could take 30 seconds. You want to start doing what you got to do. So I hope you guys and gals got some good information out of this. It was, like I said, it's a little bit long, but there's some good info in here. And if I get a good response from people, I'll continue the series. I think OBS is probably the best streaming service going. You people that are on SplitCam, Manycam, any flash-based offering today, you're going to have to seriously think about finding another. If those applications do not conform to the HTML5 standard, which means no flash, then you're going to have to find another app to stream. OBS, I think, is the way to go. On the 20th of December, Adobe turns off the Flash servers, so if you think you can keep using it, good luck. And if you guys have any questions, you know where I live. We'll see you in the group. Thanks.